Hello, family. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Stories. Remember to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Tessa's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped into the grand ballroom, her mind swirling with conflicting emotions. The lavish baby shower, meticulously arranged by her best friend Naomi, was meant to be a celebration of new beginnings. Yet, as the golden chandeliers sparkled overhead and elegant floral arrangements lent a dreamy atmosphere, a dark, foreboding sense of betrayal loomed. At 8 months pregnant, Tessa's excitement had curdled into dread. Every shimmering detail of the event, from the delicate lace tablecloths to the carefully chosen menu, now served as a painful reminder that nothing was as it seemed. She smoothed the silky fabric of her gown with trembling fingers, the material a poor substitute for the warmth of trust she once felt. In the midst of polite laughter and the clinking of champagne flutes, Naomi floated confidently among the guests. Yet one glaring absence cast a shadow over the festivities. Marcus, Tessa's husband, was nowhere to be seen. 4 months, his secretive phone calls, unexplained late nights, and growing emotional distance had eroded her sense of security. Maybe he's just delayed, Naomi had whispered earlier, but even that soft reassurance could not still the knot of anxiety twisting in Tessa's stomach. Without warning, the grand double doors burst open. All eyes turned as a striking woman strode in, a vision in a provocative red dress that left little to the imagination. "Sorry I'm late," the woman announced with a cool, dismissive air, her voice dripping with condescension. "I had to make sure the real guest of honor was ready." The words cut through the ambient chatter like a razor's edge, and Tessa's blood turned to ice. In the blink of an eye, Marcus emerged from behind the new arrival, his arm draped possessively around the woman's waist. The guests gasped. Whispers rippled through the room like wildfire. "Marcus, what is happening?" Tessa managed to ask, though her voice trembled with shock. Marcus's eyes betrayed a moment of regret before he offered a strained smile. "Tessa, darling, it's not what it looks like," he stammered, his words sounding hollow against the rising murmur of disbelief. The red-dressed intruder, Bianca, laughed, a sound as cold and sharp as shattered glass. "Oh, sweet Tessa," she purred, her tone laced with mocking sweetness. "You always thought you knew what love was, didn't you?" The ballroom fell into a heavy silence. Tessa's mind raced with memories of tender promises and shared dreams, now tainted by the revelation that the man she had trusted was complicit in a betrayal so public it left her exposed. "I trusted you," she whispered, barely audible, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. And yet, even as heartbreak threatened to overwhelm her, a spark of determination ignited within her. She remembered the times Marcus had boasted about his supposed fortune, the life of luxury he promised her, and now, those boasts rang hollow. Naomi leaned in, her voice low but resolute. "Tessa, you deserve so much more than empty promises," she murmured, offering a steadying hand. Gathering her courage, Tessa squared her shoulders and addressed the room. "Marcus, if you have any decency left, explain yourself." Her tone, though laced with pain, resonated with a power that silenced the surrounding chatter. Bianca, reveling in the chaos, interjected with a sly smile, "Explain? There's nothing to explain, Tessa. Marcus made his choice long ago." The biting remark stung, and the atmosphere grew thick with tension. Guests exchanged glances that mingled shock with pity, as if bearing silent witness to the collapse of a once-ideal romance. Tessa's eyes flashed as she recalled the countless evenings when Marcus had reassured her of their future, a future that now lay in ruins. "I gave you everything, my heart, my trust, my future," she declared, her voice rising. "And this is how you repay me?" Her words, raw and unyielding, hung in the air like a challenge. In that charged moment, even as tears threatened to spill, Tessa felt a transformation stirring within her, a fierce resolve to reclaim her dignity at any cost. Marcus's face contorted with a blend of regret and defiance. "Tessa, please, Let's talk about this in private, he pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. But the moment was lost. The once celebratory hall had turned into a stage for a public reckoning, and every guest felt the weight of the betrayal unfolding before them. Naomi's supportive presence bolstered Tessa as she continued, "I refuse to be your silent victim any longer. Today, I reclaim my truth." A murmur of agreement rippled among the onlookers, and even the gilded decor seemed to bow in silent testimony to Tessa's newfound strength. In that moment, as the perfect betrayal lay bare its cruel face, Tessa resolved that the pain would not define her. The night was no longer about a lost love, but about rediscovering her worth and charting a path toward liberation. The grand ballroom, once a symbol of a fairy tale life, had transformed into a crucible in which Tessa's resolve was forged. And as every guest bore witness to the fall of a false facade, Tessa knew that she was about to write a new chapter in her life, one where truth and self-respect reigned supreme. Bianca's entrance had not only shattered the illusion of marital bliss, it had stolen the spotlight. In the days that followed the bombshell revelation, the whispers and gasps that filled the ballroom had rippled out into every corner of Tessa's world. At home, the luxurious mansion that Tessa and Marcus had once shared now felt like a gilded cage, echoing with memories of a life built on deception. The morning after the spectacle, Tessa awoke to a silence that was as deafening as the clamor of the previous night. As she sat at the ornate breakfast table, her thoughts churned with conflicting emotions, humiliation, anger, and a spark of liberation. "I never imagined this would be our reality," she murmured to herself, recalling Marcus's feeble attempts at justification. Yet even as the pain threatened to engulf her, Tessa resolved to confront the treachery head-on. Later that day, Tessa arranged a meeting with her closest confidants in the mansion's lush drawing room. Naomi was the first to arrive, her expression a mix of sympathy and steely resolve. "Tessa, we need to talk," Naomi said firmly, her voice steady as she sat down across from her friend. "This isn't just about Marcus anymore, it's about reclaiming your power." Tessa nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I trusted him completely. And now I see that I was living a lie," she confessed, her voice wavering between sorrow and determination. "But I refuse to be defined by his mistakes. I deserve to be heard, and I deserve to take control of my own destiny." As the conversation unfolded, a plan began to take shape, a way for Tessa to publicly expose the truth, to force the world to see Marcus's deception for what it was. "We'll stage a press conference," Naomi suggested, her tone brisk and determined. "We'll show everyone that the man you thought was your savior is nothing more than a fraud." The idea ignited a fierce energy in Tessa, and soon the two women began strategizing every detail, from revealing financial documents to sharing intimate details of Marcus's lies. In the meantime, Bianca was not content to remain in the shadows. Having reveled in her newfound power the night before, she now assumed complete control of Marcus's public persona. At a glamorous charity gala a few days later, Bianca emerged as the center of attention, laughing and flirting with influential guests. Her bold, unapologetic behavior was calculated to erase any memory of the scandal. "Marcus is a man of mystery," she would coo to curious onlookers, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "He's a man who defies convention." Every word was designed to keep the focus off the sordid details of his private life, and to keep Tessa's quiet determination from turning into a roar of truth. Yet, even as Bianca basked in her self-appointed role as the leading lady of this twisted drama, Tessa's inner strength only grew. At a dinner party held in the mansion's opulent dining hall, Tessa confronted Bianca directly. "Tell me, Bianca," Tessa challenged, her voice measured yet fierce, "what is it that you truly desire? Is it the thrill of being with a man you know nothing about, or is it the power that comes from tearing someone else down?" The question hung in the air like a dare, and for a moment, Bianca's practiced smile faltered. "Power, dear," she finally replied, her tone dangerously calm. "But isn't it obvious? I've always known how to take what I want." The conversation escalated as guests watched in breathless silence. "Then why waste your time on a man who pretended to be rich?" Tessa pressed further. "What does he really have to offer you?" Bianca's eyes flashed with a mixture of anger and indignation as she shot back. Marcus may have been a liar, but he made sure I never had to settle for less than I deserve. Her words, though meant to assert her superiority, only served to highlight the stark differences between the two women, a clash of values that reverberated through every corner of the room. As the night wore on, the tension between Tessa and Bianca became the unspoken focal point of every conversation. Guests whispered their opinions, each remark adding another layer to the unfolding drama. Tessa, however, remained unyielding. "I refuse to let my future be dictated by your lies," she declared, her voice resonating with conviction. "Tonight I take back the narrative, and I promise you, Bianca, that true power lies in truth, not in deceit." In that charged atmosphere, as the glittering lights of the gala danced around them, Tessa realized that her battle was far from over. The stage had been set for a showdown between the mistress and the betrayed wife, a contest where only one could emerge victorious. And with every carefully chosen word and every steely glance, Tessa was determined to ensure that the world would remember this night as the moment when she refused to be anyone's victim. Bianca, for all her bravado, could not hide the creeping sense of vulnerability. In her eyes flickered the recognition that while she might have stolen Marcus's attention, she had unwittingly awakened a force within Tessa that could not be silenced. And as the guests continued to murmur their speculations, the two women stood on opposite sides of a chasm filled with betrayal, ambition, and the promise of retribution. The tension that had filled the ballroom in the previous night had not abated, it had only simmered, waiting for the perfect moment to boil over. Tessa's declaration, the unveiling of Marcus's hidden financial deception, had left everyone stunned. Now, in the wake of that revelation, the mansion became a stage for a confrontation that would irrevocably alter everyone's lives. In the grand drawing room, early the next morning, Tessa sat alone with her laptop and a stack of documents spread before her like a map of betrayal. The soft light of dawn filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Each document was a piece of the puzzle that Marcus had so carefully hidden. The numbers on the bank statements, the faint ink on the contracts, everything painted a damning picture. Marcus, the man she had trusted to provide a secure future, was nothing more than a master of illusion. A knock on the door startled Tessa. Naomi entered, her face etched with a mixture of concern and determination. "Tessa, I've been thinking about what happened," Naomi said quietly, taking a seat beside her friend. "We need to bring this truth to light, once and for all." Tessa exhaled slowly. "I'm done playing the victim, Naomi. I've uncovered every hidden account, every forged signature, and every lie he whispered in my ear." Her voice, though steady, carried an edge of bitterness. Marcus's entire fortune was a facade. The mansion, the car, even the lavish parties, they were all built on borrowed money and deceit. Naomi nodded in agreement. "We have enough evidence to dismantle his carefully constructed empire. But we must be cautious. If he gets wind of our plan, he might try to destroy what's left of your reputation." Just then, the heavy oak door creaked open again, and Marcus appeared in the doorway, his face drawn and pale. "Tessa, please, let's talk," he pleaded, stepping into the room as if drawn by an unseen force. His voice was desperate, yet there was a trace of defiance lingering in his eyes. Tessa's eyes met his steadily. "Talk?" she repeated, her tone laced with incredulity. "You expect me to talk after all the lies, after everything you've built on false promises?" Her gaze swept over the documents scattered across the table. "I have proof, Marcus. Proof that while you played the role of the millionaire husband, you were drowning in debt and deceit behind closed doors." Marcus hesitated, his mouth opening and closing as if searching for words that might justify his betrayal. "Tessa, it's not as simple as you think," he stammered. I made mistakes, but I was trying to protect you. The truth is," he faltered, glancing at the legal papers that Tessa held up like a shield. Naomi interjected, her voice firm and unyielding. "Protect me? Is that what you call hiding the truth while laughing at the woman who trusted you? The documents don't lie, Marcus." The room fell into a suffocating silence as Marcus's eyes darted between Tessa and the damning evidence. Finally, with a tremor in his voice, he admitted, "I was drowning, Tessa. I took loans, faked profits. I was desperate. I never meant for you to find out this way." His words tumbled out in a rush, as if he hoped that by speaking them aloud, he could reverse the tide of his downfall. Tessa leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Desperation? You put your pride before our future. Every lie you told, every promise you broke, has led us here, to this moment of ruin." Her tone was a blend of sorrow and resolve. "You always wanted to appear invincible, but now the truth is all anyone can see." Marcus's face crumbled, the weight of his deception evident in every line. "I was so afraid of losing you," he confessed softly, his eyes brimming with regret. "I thought if I could keep up the charade, I'd buy back your love somehow. Instead, I've lost everything." The gravity of his words hung in the air, punctuated by the quiet hum of the mansion's ancient clock. Tessa's anger, though still potent, gave way to a melancholic understanding. "Love isn't built on lies, Marcus," she replied, her voice gentle but unyielding. "And trust, once shattered, is impossible to restore." Naomi crossed her arms, adding, "It's time the world knew what really happened. You presented yourself as a man of wealth and power, but now everyone will see that your empire was nothing but a house of cards." Marcus's eyes searched Tessa's face, a silent plea for forgiveness that would never come. "I'm begging you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "for one more chance to fix this." Tessa shook her head slowly. "A chance? You never gave me a chance. All I ever received were empty promises and lies. I trusted you with my heart, and you squandered it." Her words were like a verdict, a final judgment on the man who had once meant everything to her. Naomi retrieved a thick envelope from a drawer, one that contained the formal evidence of Marcus's financial ruin. "This isn't just about the money, Marcus," she stated, her tone resolute. "It's about accountability. You chose deception over honesty, and now you must face the consequences." In that charged moment, as Marcus's world crumbled around him, Tessa felt a surge of empowerment. "I'm reclaiming my future," she declared, her voice echoing off the marble walls. "And I will not allow your lies to dictate my life any longer." Marcus's plea dissolved into a desperate silence as the reality of his choices settled like a heavy fog in the room. The documents lay as silent witnesses to his betrayal, each page a testament to a life built on pretense. As Tessa gathered the evidence, she knew that the next steps would be painful but necessary. The unraveling had begun, and with it, the promise of a new beginning, one where truth would triumph over deceit, no matter the cost. With a final, pained look at Marcus, Tessa whispered, "This is the end of your lies." And in that moment, as the first rays of a new day broke through the gloom, the true unraveling of Marcus's empire was complete. The aftermath of Tessa's public revelation had left the mansion teetering on the brink of chaos. What had once been an elegant sanctuary now vibrated with tension, as whispers and gasps spread like wildfire among the guests. The grand drawing room, with its opulent decor and gleaming chandeliers, had transformed into a battleground where the true nature of deceit was laid bare for all to see. Marcus, his face ashen and eyes clouded with a mix of shame and desperation, stood frozen by the evidence of his crumbling empire. The legal documents, once hidden behind carefully constructed lies, now glittered under the harsh light of truth. His trembling hand reached out as if in a feeble plea for understanding, but Tessa's gaze was resolute. "Your secrets are no longer mine to bear," she declared, her voice echoing against the marble walls. Before anyone could process his silence, Bianca's reaction was immediate. The mistress's eyes narrowed as she stepped forward, her voice rising above the murmur of disbelieving guests. "This isn't over, Marcus," she shouted, her tone a volatile mixture of anger and humiliation. "I trusted you, and now look at you, exposed and destitute." Her words were sharp, slicing through the tension like a knife. The room responded with a collective murmur, the shock evident on every face. Naomi, standing close by Tessa's side, interjected with steely determination, "Marcus, your web of lies has caught up with you. Tonight, you face the consequences of your choices." The assembled guests, once mere spectators to an elegant celebration, now became an unruly jury. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, every whispered conversation fueling the impending collapse of Marcus's carefully constructed world. Marcus's voice, strained and pleading, cut through the clamor. "Tessa, please, let's step aside. We can resolve this privately. I'm begging you." His plea was met with incredulous silence. Tessa's eyes burned with a mix of sorrow and fury as she stepped closer. "Resolve it privately? After you've laughed at my pain and betrayed our vows?" she countered, her tone unwavering. "You've left me no choice but to let everyone see your true self." At that moment, Bianca, who had been basking in the limelight of her newfound control, snapped. Her arrogance gave way to frantic indignation as she approached Marcus. "You mean to tell me that all these promises were lies?" she hissed, gesturing wildly. "I wasted my time and emotions on a man who couldn't even stand up for himself." The sound of her voice, both raw and enraged, was a siren call that pulled the remaining guests into the vortex of scandal. Suddenly, the tension reached its zenith when Marcus, overwhelmed by the mounting pressure, attempted to salvage his crumbling facade. His hand reached out to grab Tessa's wrist, a desperate gesture meant to reclaim intimacy in a moment of crisis. "Tessa, please, don't do this," he implored, his voice breaking under the weight of regret. "We can fix this, I promise." But Tessa recoiled as if struck, her eyes hardening. "Fix it," she snapped. "You've already shattered everything that once made us a family. There's nothing left to fix." The turning point came when Bianca, in a fit of unbridled rage and humiliation, seized a crystal tumbler from a nearby table. "I can't stand this any longer," she declared, her voice trembling with fury. With a sudden, decisive motion, she hurled the drink directly at Marcus's face. The cool liquid splashed across his features, marking the final, public act of his disgrace. Gasps and exclamations erupted from the crowd, and the mansion's sophisticated veneer was irrevocably tarnished by the spectacle. In that charged moment, as the room descended into pandemonium, every guest became an unwitting participant in Marcus's collapse. Some tried to intervene, reaching out in a futile attempt to restore order, while others simply watched in awe as the farce unfolded. Tessa, standing amid the chaos with tears glistening in her eyes, felt both the sting of betrayal and the empowerment of truth. "You have lost everything," she pronounced, her voice ringing with finality, "and you will pay the price for every lie." Marcus, drenched in the evidence of his failures and the bitter liquid of his disgrace, could only bow his head in remorse. His once confident posture was reduced to a trembling, defeated figure whose dreams had evaporated in the face of relentless truth. "I never wanted to hurt you," he muttered, barely audible over the cacophony. "I was trying to protect us, to keep the illusion alive." But his words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the sound of his crumbling world. The guests, now fully engaged in the spectacle, murmured among themselves, each conversation a piece of the larger narrative of betrayal and downfall. Some expressed pity, while others whispered satisfaction at the sight of poetic justice. Amid the chaos, Naomi stepped forward, her eyes blazing with righteous indignation. "This isn't just about one man's downfall," she declared, addressing the room with unyielding authority. "It's a lesson in the power of truth, in the strength of a woman who refuses to be deceived." As the chaos continued, Tessa moved to the center of the room, her figure illuminated by the soft glow of the chandeliers. "Tonight marks the end of a lie," she announced, her voice steady and resolute despite the turmoil around her. "I am reclaiming my life, and so will every person who has been misled by Marcus's empty promises." Her words, both a declaration and a farewell, resonated deeply with the assembled crowd. In the midst of shattered illusions and collapsing facades, Bianca retreated, her fury and desperation leaving her isolated on the fringes of the scene. Marcus, once the center of a glittering world of wealth and power, now stood exposed, a man stripped of his pretensions and left to face the ruin he had wrought. And Tessa, though scarred by betrayal, emerged as a beacon of resilience, determined to rebuild her future on the unshakable foundation of truth. The collapse was complete. In that singular, unforgettable moment, the walls of deceit crumbled, leaving only the stark reality of a love betrayed and the promise of a new beginning rising from the ruins. The atmosphere in the mansion had shifted from chaos to a charged stillness, as if the very air was holding its breath. Tessa stood at the center of a room that had once symbolized the promise of a bright future, a future now shattered by betrayal. But in that moment of ruin, she discovered a strength that surprised even herself. The collapse of Marcus's world was not the end, it was the beginning of her ultimate power move. Marcus, his face etched with defeat, tried once more to reach out to Tessa. "Please, Tessa, let's talk about this," he pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. He had come to realize that his carefully built empire of lies had crumbled beyond repair, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. Yet, every time he tried to bridge the gap, Tessa's gaze cut him down like a blade, each look a silent testament to the betrayal he could no longer justify. Tessa's eyes shimmered with the remnants of tears, but they were tempered by a newfound determination. "Talk," she repeated, her tone cool and measured. "After everything you've done, you think there's anything left to say?" Her voice resonated with the power of a woman who had taken back control of her narrative. "I trusted you. I believed in us. And you squandered it all by choosing deception over honesty." Before Marcus could muster another word, Naomi stepped forward, holding a sleek, manila envelope that had become the symbol of Tessa's liberation. "This," she announced to the gathered onlookers, "is the final act in the downfall of a man who promised wealth and power but delivered nothing but a house of cards." Her words echoed off the high ceilings, and for a moment, even the murmuring crowd fell silent in anticipation. Inside that envelope lay the signed divorce papers, an irrevocable decision that sealed Marcus's fate. It was not just a legal document, it was a declaration of independence, a statement that Tessa would no longer allow his lies to dictate her life. With deliberate calm, Tessa took the envelope and stepped forward, every step measured as if she were walking on a path of destiny. "Marcus," she said, her voice unwavering, "you lost everything the moment you chose to betray me, to let Bianca and your empty promises rule over our lives." The crowd watched as Tessa's words reverberated through the marble halls. Some guests exchanged looks of admiration, while others whispered that they had never seen such a transformation, a woman who turned personal tragedy into a display of indomitable strength. Even the chandeliers seemed to shine a bit brighter, as if celebrating her courage. Bianca, who had once commanded attention with her seductive presence, now slinked towards the periphery, her confident facade crumbling as she realized she had played a role in her own downfall. "This isn't over," she spat, her voice low with indignation. "You may have won this round, Tessa, but you'll never understand the power of what you're playing with." Her words, though meant to unsettle, only added fuel to Tessa's resolve. Tessa's eyes met Bianca's with an intensity that left no room for doubt. "I understand enough," she replied, her tone both compassionate and unyielding. "You see power as domination and control. But true power, real strength, comes from honesty, from knowing your own worth, and from having the courage to let go of what no longer serves you." The words rang clear, drawing nods and murmurs of agreement from those who had grown tired of the toxic spectacle. Marcus, still hovering on the edge of pleading for redemption, reached out as if trying to grasp the remnants of the life he once knew. "I can change," he whispered, his eyes pleading for forgiveness. "We can fix this, just give me one more chance." But Tessa, her voice steady as stone, shook her head. "There is no fixing what has been broken," she said, each syllable carrying the weight of finality. "I built my life on trust and integrity. Once those are shattered, the pieces can never be put back together in the same way." In a swift, deliberate motion, Tessa took the divorce papers from Naomi's hand and held them high, letting every guest witness the moment. "This," she declared, "is not just the end of a marriage, it's the beginning of my new life. A life built on truth, self-respect, and the freedom to define my own destiny." The words seemed to cast a spell over the room, and the once looming specter of despair transformed into an aura of liberation. As the finality of her declaration set in, the room erupted in an unexpected cheer, a celebration of Tessa's courage and the end of a long-standing facade. The murmurs grew into claps and shouts of approval, as if the assembled crowd had been waiting for this cathartic moment all along. Even some of the guests who had silently sympathized with Marcus's plight found themselves compelled to acknowledge the righteousness of Tessa's stand. Naomi, ever the loyal friend, moved closer and softly said, "You've not only taken back your life, Tessa, you've shown everyone that even in the darkest moments, we have the power to redefine ourselves." Tessa's eyes glistened as she absorbed Naomi's words, recognizing that the journey ahead would be challenging but no longer lonely. In that charged moment, as the finality of the divorce papers sealed Marcus's fate and Tessa's new beginning beckoned, a transformation took place. Tessa was no longer the betrayed wife. She was a woman reborn from the ashes of deceit. Her voice, once trembling with hurt, now resonated with unwavering confidence. "I'm done living in your shadow," she proclaimed. "From this day forward, I choose to live for me." The magnitude of her statement lingered in the air long after the echoes faded, a promise to herself and to everyone present that she would rebuild her life on her own terms. In that defining moment, Tessa's ultimate power move was complete, a final, resolute act of liberation that left Marcus's world in ruins and set the stage for a future defined not by the past, but by her own unyielding spirit. As the guests began to disperse, carrying with them the memory of a night that had shifted the balance of power forever, Tessa took one last look at the crumbling remnants of what once was. With the divorce papers still clutched tightly in her hand, she whispered to herself, "I lost you the moment you chose deceit over truth, but I've gained everything I never knew I deserved." And with that, Tessa turned her back on the broken past, stepping boldly into the uncertain, but infinitely promising, light of a new dawn. The mansion, once the stage for betrayal and public humiliation, now stood silent as if mourning the collapse of its once gleaming facade. In the cool afterglow of a tumultuous night, Tessa found herself alone in the grand foyer, the echoes of the crowd still lingering in every marble corridor. This was the moment of final reckoning, a moment when the past was laid to rest and a new future began to unfold. Tessa's thoughts were a swirl of emotions as she stepped slowly toward the expansive front doors. The echoes of Marcus's pleading, Bianca's venomous accusations, and Naomi's unwavering support mingled in her mind. Every memory was a stitch in the tapestry of her newfound liberation. Behind her, the remnants of the evening's chaos, the discarded champagne flutes, the smeared cake, and the hushed voices of those who had witnessed the collapse, faded into a distant murmur. Now, only the promise of a fresh start remained. As she paused in the foyer, the weight of the past pressed against her chest, but it was quickly supplanted by a fierce determination. "This is goodbye," she murmured to herself, her voice steady yet imbued with both sorrow and hope. In that quiet moment, she recalled the image of the divorce papers, those definitive, irrevocable symbols of her reclaiming her life. They had signified not only the end of a marriage built on lies but also the beginning of her journey towards self-respect and independence. A soft knock on the door pulled her from her reverie. It was Naomi, arriving one last time before the mansion was to be sealed off as a relic of the past. Naomi's eyes shone with quiet pride as she took in the sight of her friend, now resolute and unburdened. "Tessa," Naomi said gently, "it's time. You have fought hard, and you deserve to step into a life that is truly yours." Tessa offered a small, grateful smile. "I know," she replied, her voice steady. "Every step, every tear, has led me here. I can't keep carrying the weight of his lies any longer." The finality in her tone was as much a declaration as it was an acceptance of the pain that had shaped her. It was time to leave behind the mansion, and with it, the ghost of a love that had been nothing more than a mirage. Outside, the early morning light was soft, the sky painted with hues of amber and gentle blue, a quiet promise of renewal. Tessa walked slowly up the marble steps, each footfall a testament to her journey. She paused at the bottom and glanced back one last time at the mansion. The sprawling estate, with its intricate architecture and bittersweet memories, now symbolized an era she was determined to leave behind. "Goodbye," she whispered, as if bidding farewell to a painful chapter of her life. Her phone buzzed softly in her hand, a message from an unknown number. With a hesitant curiosity, she read it. It was a simple message: you're stronger than you know. Your future is bright. A friend. For a moment, Tessa's heart swelled with unexpected warmth. It was as if the universe was sending her a final nod of encouragement, affirming that the pain of the past was only a prelude to the promise of tomorrow. As she continued down the quiet street, memories of the mansion began to fade, replaced by the dawning realization that every ending is, in fact, a beginning. In the days that followed, the viral video of the scandal became a distant echo. Media outlets and social platforms buzzed with the story of Marcus's downfall and Tessa's triumphant rise, but for Tessa, it was no longer about public opinion, it was about her own journey. The cheers of the crowd, once so vital in defining her victory, had given way to the deeper, quieter voice of self-acceptance. In her new apartment, a modest but welcoming space that she had chosen with care, Tessa found solace in the small details. The morning sun streamed through sheer curtains onto a table that held a single vase of fresh wildflowers. Every object in that space whispered of a fresh start, a canvas yet to be painted with dreams and aspirations. In the solitude of her new beginning, Tessa allowed herself a moment of reflection. Sitting at the window, she thought back to the day when she had first realized the truth about Marcus. It had been a moment of bitter clarity that shattered the illusion of their life together. In that moment, she had found a fierce inner strength, a strength that had carried her through humiliation, betrayal, and heartbreak. Now, as she savored the silence, that strength bloomed within her, filling every corner of her being with a quiet, unassailable hope. A knock on her door interrupted her reverie. It was her neighbor, a kind-faced woman with a warm smile, offering a basket of fresh bread and a cup of herbal tea. "I thought you might enjoy a little welcome gift," she said kindly. Tessa accepted the basket with gratitude, realizing that in the vast tapestry of life, new connections were emerging to help mend the broken pieces. That evening, Tessa invited a small group of friends, those who had stood by her through thick and thin, over for a quiet dinner. The conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with laughter, shared memories, and plans for the future. Each story, each smile, was a reminder that life held more than the pain of the past. As they gathered around the table, Tessa raised her glass in a toast. "To new beginnings," she declared, her voice clear and determined. "To embracing every moment, even when it comes cloaked in sorrow, because every ending gives way to a fresh start." Her friends clinked their glasses in agreement, and for a brief moment, the room was filled with a sense of unity and hope. That night, Tessa lay in her new bed, the soft glow of a bedside lamp illuminating a journal where she began to write down her dreams and aspirations. The pages filled slowly, a written testament to a woman reborn from the ashes of deceit. In the quiet of the night, as the city slept and the moon cast gentle shadows across her room, Tessa whispered a final goodbye to the ghost of her past. "I am not defined by the hurt you inflicted or the lies you spun," she said softly, her voice echoing in the stillness. "I am defined by my strength, my resilience, and my unwavering belief that I deserve a life filled with truth and love." With that, Tessa closed her journal and drifted into a peaceful sleep, knowing that tomorrow held the promise of endless possibilities. The final goodbye was not a moment of despair, it was a triumphant farewell to the pain that had once tethered her spirit. And as dawn broke once more, Tessa stepped into a new day, her heart light, her eyes bright with the promise of a future truly her own. The end. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.